Welcome to Eye on the Illini live post game. Mike Kegley, Kedrick Prince. We're waiting on Brad Sturdy to get back from the post game media, and we will talk to him. Ked, under Brad Underwood, these type of games get boring because Illinois inevitably wins by 20 points, and then people are like, "Why isn't it 30?" And yet, at the same time, you don't have to worry about. I remember the horrible feelings. I don't know if you remember going to the Prairie Capital Convention Center to watch those games early in the season when
Yeah.
Illinois was losing. I mean, it was just horrible. Um, this was a game that I thought Illinois played okay and still ended up winning by 20 points. And we saw Merkovich set some records that they've never, that hasn't been done since Nick Witherspoon back in the day. So just a couple thoughts there to bandy about on you.
Well, you're right. It was, I mean, we can't pretend that it was some exciting game. It was a lackluster game, and it didn't seem excited. Fans didn't seem too excited. The players, I don't want to say they went through the motions, but I'm sure the coaches will address that next week soon because if you're going to be one of the best teams in the country, you can't do that.
Yeah, and yet, like I said, they still won, so that was nice to see. I thought it was a little better. I think the team shot fairly consistently from the three. They were at 30%. I'd like to see them land at about 35 most games. Their shooting, they ended up 37.7 for the game. But I guess, Kat, it doesn't really matter what your shooting percentage is when you have a 49-29 advantage on the rebounds, and you also end up grabbing 19 offensive boards.
Well, Thor, I won't call him the Hulk. Thor, he did a really good job talking about our guy David Merkovic. He's just a lot of fun, like you mentioned, Mike. He's gonna be a lot of fun to cover, and I'm just really, really glad that he's dressed in orange and blue, and it's just it's nice to see. It really is, and his effort, and I want to see him do this something somewhere close to this when they play Alabama next week. I mean, I know he's not going to grab 21 rebounds, but at least to get a double next week.
Yeah, we have some people talking about the ball movement. Wasn't very good today. It did seem like maybe they were holding. You kind of speculated on this, but maybe they were holding a little bit back because you're going to be seeing Alabama, you're going to be seeing UConn, you're going to be seeing Missouri, and you hate to give too much away when you can win.
Well, you don't. That's what you don't want to do. But there's going to be enough of them when they go back to review the Texas Tech game as well. But I'm just looking for a much better shooting performance. I really do believe that. I think that's going to make a big difference. If they're knocking down shots, it's a neutral site, which is going to be nice for Illinois. But when games like this, when you play Texas Tech and then, you have a game like Colgate in the middle, who could potentially be a tournament team, which I think they're supposed to be, then you got to get, excited about going to Alabama. And I know you're going to see a totally different effort because Alabama's good. I mean, they're really, really good.
Yeah, you're going to see that, and obviously they're going to have the athletes who can push Illinois a little bit. The other thing I think that stood out for me just watching the game is Wagler is just a freshman, but boy, he goes to the basket, and I think to me he's almost like a couple year younger version of Stojakovic a little bit. He has a tendency to play defense using his length, and then is very good at going towards the basket. One of the things that the Texas Tech fans were so upset about was the lack of playing or getting foul calls. But Toppin did that hook that really was a straight up and down hook shot, so he was never going towards the basket, which if you're going towards the basket, your defender's between you and the basket, you're almost automatically going to have some contact that results at you going to the free throw line. And Wagler is got a master's degree in that.
Oh, he does. He has it figured out. I'm telling you, he does. But that's why I mentioned to you earlier about Mike, about him being to be a young kid. I mentioned at halftime how smart and how smooth he is, and shooting is like contagious. No one shot the ball well tonight, and I always thought this with this team. You may have one or two guys, but nobody did. No one was just outstanding, and even like Keaton, who had a really, really good game. If you look at the stat sheet, but he was 4 for 11 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, 9 for 11 from the free throw line. I mean, he did end up with 19 points, but he was 4-11. So yeah. And I'll tell you what, though, how much better Underwood likes him. He played the second most minutes on the team behind Merkovic.
Yeah, Merkovic got in there, and I was actually kind of surprised Big Z only played 16 minutes. It almost like they felt like they didn't have to have him either. I'm not certain. It would have been, we'll have to ask Brad a little bit about that. But it seemed like, they were holding a little back and maybe not going overboard.
I do. And I'm really curious to see what Coach Underwood was going to say too. But I know, I can assure you, knowing Coach Underwood the way I do, he's going to motivate the hell out of them, and he's going to challenge them like no other. You can see that. I mean, I just know the way he is.
Yeah, and Zeno was there the other night and was talking about, he was that Big Z was pulling on a hamstring a little bit. We've had other people talking about a knee. So yeah, there's a little bit of bumps and bruises going on right here, which is totally good. Totally good. They've just got to figure out how to play through them. Boswell, I thought, had a pretty good night. Stojakovic was quiet. He wasn't getting the shooter's role tonight like he did in the last game.
No, he didn't shoot the three ball particularly well either. I mean, he really didn't. And that's going to come. But he's never been a great 3-point shooter. He's been a decent one. And like we said at the very beginning when they picked him up, he's going to get open looks. And he had a lot of open looks. He has to make the shots now. But knowing his dad and how competitive he is, I'm sure there's going to be some hard conversations with that. Because you're right, he could get to the rim at ease, but he was 1 for 6 from 3-point line tonight. So was Kylan Boswell. I think Kylan could use some rest. He played 39 minutes against Texas Tech, and then tonight he played 31. So some rest would be good for them. And I know a lot of people don't like this because maybe it's being old school, but I think good shooters have good legs, and I think, and you saw how well they shot the ball to begin with. So I'd like to see them get some rest from that standpoint. Jake Davis was even 1 for 5.
Yeah, and with Kylan, that's part of the reason why people want to see Petrovic, get a chance to get in there when he is healthy. And I think that's one of the things that's important to this Illini team. I know some people are like, oh, how are you gonna find time for him? Well, good basketball players, as a coach, you find time to get them on the court. So hopefully we will see him come in a little bit. Let's go through some of the stats because usually there's a lot of folks who are maybe don't have that right in front of them. But for the Illini, of course, Merkovic led the way with 27 points. Wagler had 19. You had Boswell with 11, Humrickhouse with 10, Stojakovic 9, Jake Davis 5, Ivasic had 3, and then Jax just did not score. Illinois was outshot from the field by Colgate. You wouldn't expect that in a 19-point victory, but 42-38 on field goals. On 3-point percentage, Illinois was 11 for 37, so they finished at 30%, and Colgate was 26. Looking at the free throws, both teams were evenly matched there, 89% for Colgate, 88 for Illinois. But like we saw, this team is not super duper physical, even though they rebound well. So Illinois was 21 for 24 from the free throw line, while only putting Colgate to the line 9 times, where Colgate was 8 for 9. Illinois had 5 turnovers. Colgate had 7. Illinois had 7 turnovers. Colgate had 5. Points off of turnovers was 11-7. Total rebounds 49-29, and that's where the Illini made the difference. They had 19-6 advantage in offensive rebounds. And if you can't hit the broadside of the barn, but you can get 19 offensive rebounds, that makes the game much better. Second chance points, as people might expect, 22-6 advantage for the Illini. Bench points were 17-15 for Colgate. Points in the paint, Colgate, it was actually a little advantage there, 32-30. Fast break points, well, we didn't see a lot of those, 2-0. 5 blocks for Illinois, 1 for Colgate, 4 steals for Colgate, 3 for Illinois, 12 assists for the Illini, 9 for Colgate. The game was tied 3 times. The lead changed 4 times. Illinois had the lead for 37 minutes and 43 seconds, and Colgate had the lead for 31 seconds. So you saw a game that Illinois didn't maybe blow the doors off, but they did do a very nice job of keeping a team down. And I'll go one last set of stats because people do ask about this quite often. On the plus-minus chart, Merkovich was plus 19, Stojakovic plus 22, and you had plus 18 was Kylan Boswell, plus 11 was Keaton Wagler, Big Z was plus 5, Ben Humrickhouse was plus 1, Jake Davis plus 11, and Jason Jaxtis was plus 8. So overall, a pretty good game for the Illini. Again, it was just a game where Illinois came out and they kind of just got the lunch pail and went out to work and got a good win and didn't particularly show any super great plays. But then again, they didn't also have the poor plays either.
Mike, you know what? This is one of these games where where people know that I'm not a big fan of the plus and minuses. You just went through the statistics, and there's only 2 guys. Well, I guess the B6 who was 1 for 1 that shot the ball well from the field. Ben Humrickhouse, you said he was plus 1 or 2. He was 4 for 9. The only other guy close to him next to him was David. He was 8 for 16. Everybody else 3 for 11, 5 for 16, 4 for 11, 1 for 5. I mean, that's why I'm not a fan. I mean, and we barely talked about Ben, and he had 5 rebounds, but that's when he was only plus 2. That's why I'm not a fan. I mean, because you can see the eye test. For him, those are really, really good numbers that he put up, and I mean, he deserves credit because when he's struggling, people are tough on him. He feels it, and he knows it, so we need to give him credit. The plus and minuses with him could go out the window as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I love the way he uses his body. He gets rebounds significantly lower than the rim sometimes, and I will tell you, he does have an ability. I think he does 2 things better than a lot of players. One is he knows where to get his body, and then the second thing is he does a really good job of tracking the ball when it's in the air. And I think that's part of he kind of, as he tracks the ball, he almost keeps his body between almost like a wide receiver keeps their body between the defensive back and the ball coming towards him. I think he does a really good job of that.
Well, he does. He does. Mike, let me ask you. I mean, when you look, I know you do a good job of being the host of the show, but let me ask, what do you think? How do you think the performance went tonight? Your assessment of, did they look bored to you, disinterested to you? I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's hard for me to say they look disinterested when you get 49 rebounds because, as you know, there's a component of rebounding that has to do with just wanting to get to a spot before somebody else so that you can get the board. And I think they did good job there. I didn't think the defense wasn't incredible for them, but when you look, again, you've got a Colgate team that only shot 41%, so that tells you that they weren't exactly falling asleep. I keep going back to the Gross era where a game that the team wasn't particularly inspired could mean that the Illini get upset, and it almost always meant that they were going down the length of the game. You know, it was always like, well, we won by 7, you know, or we won by 4. What if they had not traveled, or what if, you know, this, that, and the other thing? So to me, the one thing that Underwood has done is he's eliminated these cupcakes from ever, you know, beating the Illini. And then the other thing is, a big part of it is the talent on the team, because of the recruiting levels of Underwood and his staff, particularly, you know, Orlando Antigua, and give a tip of the cap to Tim Anderson. These teams are also quite a bit better than the cupcakes are as well. So I think those two things really factor into why Illinois has done so much better, and they don't have those upsets that, I mean, let's face it, when Illinois lost some of those early season games under John Gross, it was hard to be optimistic about the Big Ten season.
Well, the talent level, like you just mentioned, is a heck of a lot better than what it once was. And, you know, the style of play, and, you know, even if it was last year's team, it's just different. I mean, I'm not going to sit and hammer John Gross, because out of all the coaches that's ever been at the University of Illinois, that was one guy that I didn't see eye to eye with, and I wasn't a fan, and I know he definitely didn't like Kedrick. So I'll just leave it at that. And I'm glad he's no longer there, and I'll put it like that. And, you know, the guy they have right now, I have all the confidence in the world. When they play next week, you're going to see a different game, because if they play next week against Alabama the way they play tonight, they'll get beat by 30-40. I mean, I watched them play Purdue, and they look really, really good. Purdue played great. I mean, I have to give them credit. I was disinterested in them for a while, but truthfully, the way I look at it right now, they can play with anybody in the country if they're playing up to their capabilities. And I'm going to tell you, they need to shoot. They need to get some rest. I mean, you look at some of the comments here on the side, a lot of people were talking about how, you know, they look tired, look fatigued. And I know people don't like that. They're going to say, okay, they're 19, 21-year-old kids. I get it. I understand. But I'm going to tell you, the workouts today and practices are not the same as they were when we were younger. It's not even close to being the same. The demand, the time, and the workouts before, the workouts after, it's like a 4 or 5 hour event.
So DS wants you to talk to the mother. I'm not certain which mom he wants you to talk to, but we've already established that you're more than willing to talk to Stojakovic's mom, so we know that. You know, it just seems like this is the other part of when you there's a reason why these coaches make the big money, because they've got to try to motivate, you know, 17 to 23-year-old kids and keep them motivated every other time. But I definitely think there's some opportunities here for the team to play a little bit better. But I guess I didn't see anything tonight that caused me. I'll kind of go with what Kevin Houston said, which the only thing is kind of you're going to give Brad and the staff, you know, the benefit of the doubt when they choose not to play a player. They're doing that for the good of the team and the good of that player. So I totally am that. But it is. I was really hoping to see Petrovic out there and making some contributions and getting a chance to play with his teammates in game situations. And I know 6 days, you know, 5-6 days is a lot, and he may come but be all ready to go against Alabama, but it is a lot harder on him as a player to have that be your first game with a team, playing a team as good as Alabama.
Well, he is 37 years old, so maybe he won't be nervous. I'm just kidding. But that would be tough.
Yeah, that comment. It's you know, Ked at IlliniGuys.com. we'll get an email of you, or you can just go right to Ked on Twitter and go after him. No, I do think that's it. And I'll tell you, the shooting percentages, I don't know if they took horrific shots, but they definitely took at times the easier opportunities as opposed to making the extra pass, you know, rotating the ball around a little bit. you're going to have games like that.
Yeah, I do think they lost too many threes, but then that's why they played the zone. They made you shoot him. And again, I'm not going to deter what I said at halftime. I know they have a better offense than that. I'm just, you know what? It's out of the way. If you played sports, you've had games like that. Sometimes it's just really, really hard to get kids motivated. It's happened typically in football games. You see a team like you go back to Purdue and Illinois played them last year. Or the game should never have been that close. But you have those games, and it's how you bounce back. I really think they're going to bounce back, and it's easy for fans to get discouraged. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. It was just like, to tell you the truth, I was watching them play and the women at the same time, who lost tonight, by the way. Very, very tough game to watch. But I was watching both games, to tell you the truth, because they're playing out on the road at Oregon State tonight.
Wow. So Ked was doing double duty. That's the type of dedication you get from Ked. A lot of people would just watch one game, like me. Ked was out there doing multiple games, and so I gotta give him credit for that. I'm going to throw one comment out here, Ked, because I think it's a little bit. It may be something that has a little bit of an indication for us. But a couple things that I noticed and we've talked about is, first one, DS talks about hamstring injuries linger and are easy to re-injure. We talked about that at halftime. We've talked about that before. I think that's a very valid point. So you can see where, if I'm Coach Underwood, do you really want to get this guy to tweak that hamstring against Colgate so he can't play against Alabama and UConn and Missouri? I think no.
Yeah, you're right. You want him playing. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I'm going to tell you, for those who have not seen him play, when you see how fast he is and how hard he cuts right and left, and I can see how he injured it, to tell you the truth, because of the way he plays. I'm kind of scared to see him back on the court. I'd much rather see him sit, if it's until Christmas, to see him be 100% healthy. I want fans to really see how special this kid is. Until Keaton Wagler came in and just stole the show, I'm going to tell you, I had him penciled in as a starter next to Kylan Boswell. He's that good of a player. He's just really, really just quick, and everybody likes Merkovic because he's fun, and some of the things he does it makes you scratch your head. You're going to become a fan of Petrovic, I'm telling you, because this kid's he's fun, he's fast, he's just a really good player. And watching him on the bench tonight, you can tell he's disappointed, and it's going to take a game. You look at Stojakovic's first game against Jackson State, he looked like he hadn't played basketball in 3 years, so it's going to take a while to get him going as well.
Yeah, and of course, we talked a little bit about, pulled hamstrings can lead to longer injuries, but here's one that St. Dominic's Rosary talks about. Petrovic looked good in warm-ups, and now I'm thinking to myself, Ked, and maybe you tell me if I'm drawing up something that's not realistic, but could Brad Underwood be laying a little low in the weeds here and got a player who maybe is feeling a little better than we might think, and saving him with that speed to unveil that against Alabama? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it's a possibility, because there's no scouting report, there's video footage, but there's definitely a possibility because he has practice. You think he's just not warmed up. He has practice, and it's not a secret. Coaches mentioned that. I wouldn't do it, but I'm not being paid the money he's paid, and I'm not coaching on his level, but it might be a good play to use. I know that happens in football all the time. People do that. So
yes.
I just think right now, when in a game like next week, I think you're going to see a lot of points scored. I really do. And if you get him in the open court, he's one of the guys that I can say to you that I know for sure that can match Alabama's speed. And I'm going to tell you, I was during media day, and I mentioned last podcast, I had a chance to talk to Coach Underwood, and I'm telling you, I was off record. Here's a kid. The kid's quick, lightning quick. So I really want to see him be healthy, and it would be fun to see him to go out there to compete at that level. I just think it's going to be a great week. There's be a lot of coverage to it, and Illinois, I think potentially could be in the top 10 next week. Based off their performance, because all the national media guys just fell in love with them, the way they played, without Big Ubicic. And I want to see him back on the court. he just punishes people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Petrovic speed would be nice to see against them, and who knows? Maybe if you talk about this happens in football where they don't show their cards, maybe we'll find out. Petrovic comes out and is running all over the place against Alabama. Maybe we'll find out Brett Bielema is influencing Brad Underwood, trying to get football stuff being done, and next thing you know, we're going to have some sort of like cross genesis between these, some hybrid coming off of this friendship between Brad Underwood and Brett Bielema, and who knows what they could unleash on the college world. But I would be all for that. And then the final thing is Colgate really was kind of a trap game because you come off of a very, very inspiring win against Texas Tech. And I don't care who you are, as fans, we're thinking this way. So you'd have to think, from a standpoint of the players, it's probably hard not to focus on the fact that you're going to be playing Alabama. And, oh, yeah, we just got to get rid of these guys while they're here. So I think that would be the definition of what you would call, a trap game. And so I'm hoping, Tommy is going to get back as well. I think one of the things that I would do, though, is, basketball, anybody who's coached it, it's the longest season. It seems like, I guess baseball might be similar.
Yeah.
And there's no point in pushing a guy for a November appearance that could risk a March or April. So I rarely am going to I'm rarely ever going to get too worried if a guy is going to be a little cautious as a coach on playing injured players. I don't know how you handled that as a coach, kid.
You know what? In today's day and age, Brad Underwood can't win. You do not want to do that, because if you play him and he's not healthy, and that's why you always hear him say, I let them deal with it, because if you don't, people are going to criticize you, and it's a no-win situation. It's not going to go well for you. Changing gears here real quick. Going into the season, I put the schedule, I kind of broke it down. I really felt Tuesday's game against Texas Tech was huge. I'm going to tell you, I think next Wednesday is if they win next Wednesday against Alabama, you're playing with house money when you go play UConn and Tennessee, and Arkansas. Because here's why, Tennessee, because you need to try to at least win one or two of these games, no matter what. And last year, they got the win against Arkansas, but it ended up being a great, great win. You need to get this win. You're going to New York to play UConn. You don't want to have a Duke performance. You're going to go to Tennessee, and you're probably not going to be expected to win at Tennessee. But I really think if they win next Wednesday, it doesn't matter what else happens. It does matter. Don't get me wrong. It does matter. But when you can, because nobody with all these schedules are going to expect them to go undefeated, because a lot of teams are playing good, playing some really, really good opponents. Nobody in their right mind would have thought Purdue would have went into Alabama and won yesterday. I know I didn't think that. So those are big wins for the conference. They're big wins for the resume builders. And once you put those on your schedules, they're not going anywhere.
Well, and look, and let's talk as as media who cover the Illini, and obviously as fans who watch the Illini, you can't get too up or down, because remember, Purdue was all of a sudden wasn't what everybody thought they were 2 weeks ago before they went into Alabama and won, and then all of a sudden Purdue's really good again. So you can't get too much up or down. I think we're going to see a Purdue, Illinois, Michigan will be the top of the league. And if Indiana, I'm going to do, because we haven't had to say this since Tom Crean was coach, but if Indiana can actually shoot the three, they're going to be a lot tougher than I thought they were, because they've been so one-dimensional the last 6-7 years that you haven't even had to worry about it. I think this Big Ten season looks like it's going to be a great one, but I don't necessarily think I'll give Purdue the advantage, because they're the the returning champs, so to speak. But I think it's be one of those fights that goes down to the wire, and then whichever team has the least amount of injuries it might be the team that walks away with it, kid.
The West going to walk away with it, staying healthy, and still and still some road wins. I mean, you're right. I was one of those guys. I raised my hand when I saw Purdue and I went to play against Kentucky. I'm like, oh, not the same team. I was impressed when they played Alabama. I'm sorry that because on the road, Alabama's good, and every time Purdue had an answer, every time Alabama had an answer, Purdue, answered the call. They just look older and they look seasoned. And to beat a team like Alabama, I'm really sorry. I could be wrong, but I really think you're going to need Thomas Sowell to play. You're really going to have a full deck to have a legitimate chance because he brings something totally different to that team. Because not only the fact that we know how good Merkovic is, but his rebounding is going to improve because whoever is guarding Thomas Law, they're going to get rebounds. Now, I want fans to understand this. We talk about how big Illinois is. There's a lot of other big teams out there. If you go around and look at some of these rosters, there's some big dudes out there, and there's teams out there with 6'9", 6'11", 7-foot guys, more than one, just like Illinois. So, yes, Illinois can match up with them. I do think the one advantage Illinois has over all of them is Thomas Love's ability to shoot the ball. None of them can shoot the ball the way he can. Arguably the best three-point shooter big in the country.
Yeah, and when Big Z gets hot, he's awfully good as well. So it does give Illinois a lot. And while Merkovic shoots more of the flat, the no jump shot at times, it does go in for him, and he does. The funny thing is he uses fakes and head fakes and lean ins and step backs. He uses that so that he can keep a guy. His defender doesn't know exactly when to jump, which means he doesn't have to shoot like Michael Jordan, where you're 2.5 feet up in the air at your release point. So I think he's got an opportunity to be to pull teams out a little bit as well. So this Illini team, we're going to see more and more different ways for them to win a basketball game as they get more players back healthy.
Yeah. Hey, just not to do a plug here. People don't know if you have YouTube TV, ESPN is back on there. So I don't know if some of you guys may not be aware of that. Last night the Purdue Alabama game was on ESPN, and tonight it's back on. So if you have YouTube TV, go back and check it out. But Mike, to your point, Brad Underwood did that. He put a roster together. They can go big, they go small. When they played Texas Tech, if you go back and look, Ivisic was sitting out because they had to go small. So that was a big part of being able to adjust with this roster. They can compete with it. Whatever, if people go small, they go big, they can do either one. So that's what's going to be exciting. And I mentioned the schedule. I talked about the Alabama game, but if I had to pick out all the teams on the schedule to win, I said it last time, I want to beat UConn. They beat UConn, man. The moms better look out because I'm getting those numbers, baby. Just kidding. But I want that win. I really do. I think that'd be a good win. I think you're going to see a really fired up Brad Underwood that game. Yeah,
and I got to be honest with you, Hurley's kind of hard. He's kind of a hard thing to take unless you're a fan of UConn. But I will say that watching him at AAU tournaments when he was talking to other coaches and having such a good time, I have less animus towards him than I did before going out on the recruiting trail this summer. And one of the things I do think that is really important for Illinois is, you've got a few of these games, like you said, you're 1-0 against, Texas Tech. Well, it'd be nice to steal a second one against these ranked teams and pull out the Alabama victory, because now all of a sudden, the UConn game is a little less back against the wall. So I like I said, I'm a huge fan of this this harder schedule. And I've said it many times. I know Illini fans don't like to hear it as much, but it reminds me a little bit of when Tom Izzo sees he's got a good team. He plays a really tough schedule, and then you tend to write that Michigan State team off and then later in the season, you're watching them go, win a couple games in the NCAA tournament that you didn't maybe think they were capable of.
Mike, I want to share some news that I just saw from some of my good colleagues. Coach Underwood on Zonomir. I guess when he was younger, he had surgery and his knees swelling up. He's having issues with that. And people were asking about Petrovic. The quote that I see from 3 or 4 of my colleagues, we need to have him go through a full practice first. I'd like to see him go through a full practice. So maybe you won't see him play next week. Maybe you will. I don't know. But from according to reading that, he is still having some probably tiny nagging issues with it. Because if he hasn't completed the practice, that means there's something going on with it still.
Yeah. And again, I don't have a problem with them holding him back a little bit, making sure that he's good so that you don't end up with that tweak. You see different players come back from injuries. And people have to remember this. If you go take a film of the 80s and then compare it to today, there's a lot more movement on offense and defense that forces these guys to do a lot more steps. And you just don't want to have them in a situation where you're going to put them out there and then have them really get hurt because of that.
No, it's time to wait. And, we've all said that. And I think I just, when he gets out there, I want the fans to see him play. And but someone, Anthony Wilson, said he heard that Patrick is not good, meaning health-wise, or is a good player. I'm not sure what that means, but health-wise,
that's different than what you've heard on both, right, kid?
I'm just going to tell you, and I was trying to throw a bone out there. You can listen to all the media guys and people like me all that you want. I'm just going to tell you, I know what the people who see him every day think and what they said. I trust their word because this is the same guy who just told us how good Keaton Wagler was going to be, and people were rolling their eyes. I remember tweeting it, and people were like, "Oh, kid, here we go again." And now he's arguably one. If you look at some of the best players in the country, when people make these lists, national guys, Wagler's on there. And this kid, I think he was 145th. He was ranked 145th in the country. So Petrovic is a good basketball player. I mean, I really do. But we'll see.
Yeah, and we tend to trust ourselves. I will tell you that I'm not throwing rocks at any other podcast, but what I will say is I know Brad and Ked and the amount of information that they've gotten for Illini fans over the last 20+ years, and I tend to trust what they say over other podcasts. Now I know you'll see the big national guys will get Underwood and even Bielema in the football realm because they can get on there and get 1 million people or whatever attention that you can't get from any of the local broadcasts. So I understand why they do that. But I will say that I tend to trust the intel that I get from Ked or Brad over the national guys who are making a phone call and, when they need some information and then not really being around the program day in and day out.
Mike, I've been around long enough. And what you just said, you're on point. Because this season, now I'm just going to use John Rothstein. He's a guy I like. I'm a big fan of his. He could call Brad Underwood and say, hey, you know what, blah, 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 and it's done. He don't see Illinois, talk about Illinois ever, for the next game. I do it on a daily basis. Brad Sturdy does it on a daily basis. Matt Stevens. I mean, that's what we do. So we know more information. And I'm going to tell you something else. If you think those national guys aren't reading what we write, hell, they follow us. And sometimes they'll give you credit. You know how many times I've heard my name on Big Ten Network or other podcasts or Brad Sturdy. I've heard it, and they give credit to it because they know we're in the trenches with them. I'm not saying we know every single thing, and sometimes we know stuff people don't want to hear it. Like, I made the comment about, Milo being cleared to play. For a day and a half, people just couldn't understand why I knew that was happening and was mad about it. But I was right. The national guys didn't have it. I knew it. And so not to toot my own horn, my point to this is the national guys, yes, they'll have pull to call in and they'll get rank and they get the interviews, but it's a short stay and a short-lived situation. So, but anyway, beside the point, Anthony, you're right. I listen to podcasts all the time, Mr. Wilson. And but I like to trust my judgments. I mean, from what I was told, and I'm telling you, I mean, I was not told by somebody who didn't matter. I even go a step further. I'll tell you, because it happened media day. One of the players made a comment to me how good he was, and they were surprised, and he was better than what they saw on film. And that's
Yeah.
not the only bit of information that I've received about him. And he may come out and he may be a bust. It's very, very possible, very, very possible. But what they've seen so far, I don't. I think he's going to be okay, sir.
Yeah, well, like I said, you never know. Some guy can tweak it. You look at Jason Tatum. He had a issue with a calf, comes back too soon, blows out his Achilles. So I mean, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but you definitely have to be very careful with these guys, and especially when you're now investing in them with the NIL dollars and stuff like that. It's a different world because Brad Underwood and Brett Bielema, they're going to need resources to get players next year. So you can't waste somebody's resources this year when you might need them to help you next year. So the pressure is a lot different for these coaches nowadays. Go ahead, kid.
Let me tell you this, Mike, and I'm going to own this. I'm going to take full responsibility. I had a coach call me. He was able to watch practice. And if you guys subscribe to our message board, it's out there. And I put my name on it. I had a coach call me and was ripping Merkovic. Mike, you remember that? How bad he was? And he was telling me, this kid will never see the floor at the University of Illinois. He was too slow. He was the whipping boy, waste of a scholarship. That's what was said to me by a coach, not a University of Illinois coach. So I'm not saying that. A coach made those comments to me. And I thought, you know what? They were like, he's not as good as everybody thought. And there's not a ton of film out there where you see him where he looks really, really good. He was wrong. He was wrong because this kid obviously is effective. And I'm struggling with it, but I have to just bite my tongue. I don't see NBA in him. But I'm going to tell you, I'm wrong because they're there. They're in that gym watching that kid. And for the love of God, I don't understand and don't see it, but they like his game. Maybe it's his age. Maybe it's because he shoots off 4 legs and shoots with 3 arms because he looks unorthodox as hell. But he's effective. I mean, like, Mike, what did you say? He tied a school record for rebounds in one game tonight that was, 40, 50 years old?
He broke the freshman record because he broke Kofi's 17. So the 21 rebounds is now a record for most rebounds by a freshman. I know Nick Witherspoon got 23, back in 72 or whatever. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. But I mean, the thing and I'll be honest with you, he doesn't jump super high when he jumps.
No.
And his foot speed, and part of it's the way he runs. He just kind of runs straight up and down a little bit. So he may look a little slower than he really is. But the bottom line is we're used to an aesthetic. You see LeBron James at 6'8" and 255 running around like a deer, with running like Michael Jordan 40 times. You get used to seeing things, and when stuff doesn't look exactly like that. I mean, remember, people used to say that they were worried Kevin Garnett was going to get broken in half by the NBA, and Kevin Garnett's a thin guy, and nobody worried about that after year one, So, I mean, when you look a little different, I'm not going to comment, I'm not an expert on one or the other on that, but he definitely runs a little slower and but anyway, and we have some people talking about the overall goals of the year. And look, Big Ten championship and a Sweet 16, that has been kind of the measure that you want. Larry Smith has talked about the value of a Sweet 16 because you get that extra week on television for people to talk about your team. And so certainly, you want that. And to be honest, look, Illinois has been close many a year. I'd love to see him healthy at the end of March, early April, and make a run at a title. Now, are they good enough? We'll see. Will they be healthy? We'll see. And you also need some luck in this game. It helps if you're a 1 seed, and the 4 seed gets knocked out, or the 2 seed, 3 seed gets knocked out. And now you're facing, you get an easier game than you thought you would have. So there's all sorts of luck that comes into the NCAA. And so, and you'd also don't want that team in your bracket that everybody goes, yeah, they're underseeded. Like, let's say Loyola. So again, you need some luck of that. But I would say, if you can win a Big Ten regular season championship or a tourney title, and you go to at least a Sweet 16, that should be a good year. I'm not saying a great year, but that should be a good year. And if Illinois is clicking with a good coach, I think, you've got a chance to do both of those and be extremely competitive. I don't know what your thoughts are, Ked.
From a marketing standpoint, it's great. I remember just watching, because I love college athletics, when you get a chance to play the second weekend, it's huge because you have no games for 4 days. Everybody in the country is focused on college basketball. So everybody's breaking on every team, and then you get to have recruits that you can talk to. See, look what we're doing. We're putting guys in the NBA. Larry's 100% right. That second weekend is big. Back in the day, a long time ago, for a lot of people probably born, they used to, the second weekend, I remember they used to go to bars and restaurants and have coaches who were meeting up, and they would talk about the teams and matchups, and it was great. So the media is bigger now than what it once was. So getting to that second weekend is huge, and I think it'd be another feather in Coach Underwood's hat. A lot of people forget that they went to the Elite Eight. I think people they're in the now moment. I will say this: I tell you, if teams saw Illinois in their bracket, they're not going to be happy. I can assure you that, because I don't know how the season's going to end. But if they finish 1, 2, or 3 seed, people are going to talk about Illinois because they're doing it right now. They're talking about how good they are, and they need to host serve. I mean, you can't lose to Michigan at home, and they only play Purdue once, I believe, and I think it's in Mackey, and that's going to be tough. Are they beatable there? Yes, because if Illinois comes out and shoots the ball the way they're capable, I don't care who it is, whether it's Houston, Purdue, Alabama, they can play with anybody in the country. But if they come out and they look like they did tonight, they're going to go home early. But that's a long way away. You got the whole Big Ten season. It's a grind. You got home matchups. You got some great non-conference games, which we talked about. And I'm glad to see that. Back in the day, you never saw a team like Texas Tech come to Champaign or Tennessee. So I'm really, really good. And I Brandon's right. I remember seeing that game.
Yeah, Ohio State's always been a team the last few years that probably the last 5 years, they always seem to have way more talent than they actually produce on the court. So, and they'll have those games where you're like, Thornton plays amazing, and you're like, well, how do they finish so low? And that's always the crazy thing when you see that. So it's one of those things that we're definitely taking a look at and trying to figure out, where these teams are going to fall. And I still think Purdue has got to be the favorite.
Mike, if you don't mind not telling how to do your job, could you put up St. Dominic's last comment? Because I want to comment on that. Tell me, guys, is Braden Smith more athletic than Petrovic? I'll take Petrovic. Here's why I want to put this up there. On our message boards, and I'm going to tell you from the people that matter, the people that really matter. And I'm a straight shooter, and I have no reason to lie because it's easy to fact check things. I'm saying that I've been told that Petrovic is every bit as good as Braden Smith. The one difference between both players is Braden is a little bit better three-point shooter. That is the only difference. And the advantage that Petrovic has, he is quicker than Braden Smith. This is why I'm careful with what I say, because I don't want him, if he doesn't live up to the hype and doesn't play well. And this isn't a fan talking to me or, this is from people that matter. I'm telling you, Braden Smith, we know how good he is. And everybody that matters have said to me, those two are clones, and that Petrovic is stronger and he is much quicker. Truthfully, truth be told, My understanding, Petrovic is the fastest kid on the team, so that should tell you something.
Yeah, and of course, I always hesitate on those because Braden's been an All-American, and might even be a 2-time All-American. So, Petrovic's got to prove it, obviously, to stay there. But those were pretty important things, and one of the things that Sturdy has talked about on his podcast is that Petrovic actually had better stats in the same league that Tomislav and David were in. So there is a reason to be optimistic that he's going to be a very strong addition to the Illini. And again, my first thought is, oh great, we're getting a guard from Europe. Woo, he'll be able to shoot and maybe not be very quick. Then I started looking at his film, and I'm like, well, that was wrong. He's quick, and that was the nice thing about it. So we've got Sturdy on. We're gonna get some thoughts from Brad as he has gotten out of the press conference. Brad, give us some tidbits out of what you learned post game and any takeaways that you thought were important.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was, just in talking to, and hearing what Brad had to say afterwards, this is kind of expected. And I wrote about that in my preview. I expected kind of a sluggish game. I expected it to be one of those games where they came out slowly because, one, you're just changing styles completely. And you just had this kind of, emotional win over Texas Tech, a ranked team. And now you've got a game against a team that, you're obviously not as good. But they're tough, they're hard nosed, and so I think that was probably one of the biggest takeaways is that they adapted. This was a game I thought a few years ago, you would have had a game like this and you shot this poorly and it would have been a dogfight down the stretch.
Yep.
Now you win, you win by 20 easily. So I think that's where I'm kind of, I look at it and say, it's okay. Maybe not perfect, but I think it was still a really, really, it's a good win. It's a kind of win you want to get, and you got a lot of experience, a lot of experience for some of those guys. And Merkovich was just fantastic. I mean, what a crazy performance by him.
Yeah, it is amazing because he goes down the lane. He kind of runs at a speed it's definitely not like watching Terrence Shannon Jr. go up and down the court. And then when he doesn't get that far off the ground when he does a jump shot, but yet somehow he's got his.
I don't think it's even a jump shot, Mike. I don't think it's a jump shot.
Yeah, thank you, because I didn't want to say set shot, but I did slip up and say it earlier. But I will tell you, my theory is that he's very good at getting his body in the right position, and I think he also sees the ball in the air really well, which helps him get his body in the right position. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but boy, he's in the right place an awful lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, he is. He's in the right spot, and that's part of it. He gets his body in the right spot. He gets it, and he's got really good. Although he's not like a great leaper, he gets up to the floor. That second jump is quick. Maybe that's because he doesn't have to come down very far. But it's whatever works, and he's got good length. So he's able to get his hands on balls, and he's got great hands, and I think that's a big part of it.
We had a lot of talk, Brad, and a lot of questions about Petrovic and, how is he, and is there any shot of him playing, at Alabama? And we tend to think, Ked and I and the fans are, it's like if you can hold him off for a while, we'd rather have him for the long haul. But what are your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, no, I think my guess is that he is. I think he's going to play pretty quickly. They're just being very cautious because it seems like that he aggravates it almost every time he goes out there and does something. It's like not a major tweak, but he's able to come back, gets sore the day after, and they want him to be 100%. And Brad said tonight he's not going to rush him back. He's not going to do that. He's not going to have him, come back early and re-aggravate it seriously. So I think that, and even with Brandon Lee, he said he probably could have played tonight. But again, like, is that what you want to do? You want to put him out there and have him re-aggravate it in a game that you're going to win by 20 points. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So if, it depends on the injury, I think, in many cases. So that's why he didn't play. And Brad said he has to get through a full practice. And that's something he hasn't really done yet, hasn't been able to get through a full practice. And so, but when he's been out there, he's been really good, he said. So, and it kind of jives with what we've been hearing. And, the one thing I would say about Petrovic is I know we're excited to see him play. And everyone is. But man, Wagler and Stojakovic and Boswell, there's not a lot of those guys are going to be out there a lot. So, I mean, there's not a ton of minutes. I mean, he's going to have to really be something special to kind of take that many minutes away. And I know, like before the game, I was talking to him and they were like, he said he should be a 30-minute a game guy in college basketball, but I don't know that he will be because of how well everybody else is playing. Now it's good to have a guy like that.
Yeah.
To give you a ton of depth, but it's really it's very interesting to see how they use him and what they're going to do.
Yeah, and it would be nice. Just did you think one of the things that has kind of been noted by a lot of people? Do you think Boswell looked a little tired tonight? After playing 38 minutes against Texas Tech, and then being a lot of minutes tonight. Did he look a little tired to you? And maybe just having a guy break up the minutes a little bit would be a huge asset for the team down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think I don't know if it was tired. I just didn't think he had a very good game, and I thought he pressed. I mean, I thought he missed a lot of shots at the rim. Of that, and he did that a little bit early last year.
Yep.
But he hadn't done it so far this year. So I think, sometimes guys just don't have great nights. It happens. And you're going to have bad nights when you don't shoot as well and you miss some shots. And then I think he pressed a little bit when he missed some of those shots. I thought down the stretch, it was like kind of almost appeared like he was trying to get to that double figure mark. It almost seemed like that was what he was trying to do. And to get to the 11 points or whatever. So, but I think he's fine. I didn't think his defense was as good tonight as it was, last game. I thought, he just, and maybe that's tired. Maybe that's just knowing you're going to win. I mean, you've been in college basketball for 4 years. I mean, you're up by 20 points. You're not going to, I don't know, I don't think you're going to injure yourself or do anything that could be, could injure you or cause any problems there. So, I mean, yeah, was he a little tired? Probably, just because it was the first real game. But I think he'll be fine. I'm not really worried about Colin Boswell. Is one of the things I'm least worried about with this team.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly is. He certainly is the type of guy that, like I said, I look at this more of balancing things so that they're ready by the end of the year. I know it's late, and you and I will be back on with Ked tomorrow doing a couple football podcasts. Any closing thoughts or anything out there in terms of things that you want to tell people about or that took you by surprise, et cetera?
I mean, nothing real by surprise. I mean, the game almost went it like I expected. Thought they maybe make a couple more shots and be like 90 to 60, whatever. So that was really the only thing I saw. And that's kind of what I said. They were going to start slowly and kind of pull away and win by 25. They won by 20 or whatever. So one thing I liked was I really think this team's, Underwood preaches rebounding, and they've really taken, even when you don't shoot it well, man, if you can get I want to say they got 50% of their misses on the threes or something, some ungodly number like that. And they got a lot of misses anyway. Overall.
Yeah.
But they didn't make, but so I think, you missed threes, so you didn't shoot great. But I think they only shot 15 of 32 from two, which is, that's a low number for them. And that's, compared to, the normal numbers from two. And so And it wasn't like Colgate had great shot blockers or anything like that. It was just more Illinois, just not maybe, not being as focused as they need to be. But they're going to have to be focused against Alabama. I think it's going to be much tougher. We're going to see, again, we saw Texas Tech, and the test was the athleticism of Tech. I think Alabama's more athletic. I think their guards are quicker. So I think that's going to be a great test. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Watching Tomislav Ivičić shoot half-court shots before the game was pretty encouraging because he didn't. I honestly, it seemed like Z was limping more than Tommy tonight.
Okay.
As weird as that is. Now, Z has a little bit. He had surgery back when he was like 16, 17 years old. Still sometimes gets a little swelling in there, cartilage issue, Underwood said. And so that was he started yesterday, but I think he'll be fine. And be ready to go on Wednesday when they play Alabama.
Hyaluronic acid, baby. I do think too, as just a college kid, and heck, even as an adult, when you just got done playing Texas Tech and you can see Alabama around the corner, playing a team that's named after a toothpaste is probably not going to get you going.
I think the toothpaste might be named after the school. I could be wrong.
I'm not certain about that because I think this is an ancient toothpaste.
The Crush had their signs. They were Crest. They said Crest tonight. That was their whole thing.
I just keep thinking of those when we were kids. The people go, "It's AIM. It's a gel. It's not a paste. It's a gel." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We should we should
gel
use that instead. Yes. So no, I think there's a lot of opportunity for this team, and the funny thing is we were thinking back to the days of Gross, especially over in Springfield when you had to watch them losing or going down to the wire or even losing to teams like this. And boy, those it's really nice not to have those days around anymore. I don't know how you feel, but I really
totally agree. I think we still have that. We still have BFS that is still going on. A lot of that battered fan syndrome.
Yes.
So a lot of fans still have that going on, and so when it's 28-28, kind of there's like that panic sets in. I didn't really have any panic. I figured they were going to pull away. But it's easy to see why people would be a little concerned when you start that way. So I'm just excited to see him play. Even if it's not Alabama, I expect to see when they get to those games next. I think it's Saturday and Monday before they go to UConn.
Yep.
They've got those games, and those are Long Island and whoever Critter. Those are the kind of games I think you're going to see. They can get some of these guys some more minutes and kind of get them in a flow, and we'll see. I mean,
that's UT. That's UT Rio Grande, buddy. Don't forget them.
Okay,
Rio Grande Valley. Sorry.
Hey, that was Kofi had to score 1 year. Remember, Kofi had to score like 4,000 points to beat them. So
yeah,
it is sometimes. It's not always easy, right? So, but no, I think you'll see some, some guys, Petrovic and Brandon Lee will get some more minutes in those games, get some opportunity to kind of get their feet wet before they head to UConn. But, Wednesday they have what they have, and hopefully Petrovic can give them a few minutes and be a guy to come in and bring a spark because he's got that quickness that can really be a spark if he's healthy.
Now, a couple final comments just because to get your opinion, but Wagler is better than Will Riley. It's just a fact. My question is, will Wagler be here next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. He's probably better right now in college than Will Riley was.
But Will Riley got better.
Yeah, Will Riley got a lot better.
Yeah.
As season went on, he didn't start as well, but Wagler's different. They're different players. He doesn't have the same maybe size that Riley has. So, I don't know. How does we'll have to wait and see how he does with on draft boards and how things play. Here's the reality. If they keep throwing up, if Wagner still keeps putting up, 18, 19 points every game,
yep,
then yeah, he's probably there's a chance he won't be here. I mean, but if Merkovich keeps throwing up 2020s, he probably ain't gonna be here either. So it's one of those things, like, it's a good problem to have.
Exactly.
If you're good enough that your players are, and you're winning games and your players are killing it, that's awesome, because that means you're going to go far. And I think sometimes we're worried about next year before we even finish this year. And
Right.
enjoy these guys when they're here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because if they're that good, then great. And if they're not that good, they're not quite that good, and they're just really good college players right now and need a year of seasoning, then that's also fantastic. So lots of good there with these guys. I'm really impressed with these freshmen. And, I think that the hype on Wagler was definitely was real from the summer. I mean, sometimes we get, I don't want to hear summer reports because I don't believe it until I see it. And I think it's fair to say that those reports on him were pretty good.
Yeah, Underwood wasn't the hype machine this year. He was the reality machine.
Yeah. Yep.
And then one last question here, which is a good one, but it is putting the cart way ahead of the horse. But Petrovic versus Braden Smith is going to be a heck of a matchup. What do you think of that, Brad?
Braden Smith's a dude. He is a stud. He's the best point guard in college basketball. Yeah. I hope, and I know his game is similar to, like, Petrovic's game is similar in the way he's able to make the right play and got that quickness, lives in the paint, all that stuff. But he's got a long way to go to be Braden Smith. And I think he's got great potential. But Braden Smith's, I mean, if you watch that Alabama game, didn't think this dude's a first-team All-American, then I don't know what to tell you, because he was, he doesn't look the part. He doesn't, because he's small or whatever. But he's just a playmaker, and he makes the right play, can score it, pass it, does whatever he has to do. And he's just really impressive.
Yep. Well, folks, with that one, thanks, Brad, for coming on here. We will let you go this evening. Of course, I'll release this podcast so it's out there for people. You can obviously go to the live section of YouTube if you want another way to do that. But tomorrow we will be on at halftime. So please, spread that. If you see us, announcing that on the pod, on your social media, please forward it out for us or send it to your friends. Let's see how many people we can get on the halftime show. And then, of course, the post game, hopefully Illinois will play well. They'll give a talented but young Maryland team a nice education, hit them in the mouth early and get the game over with. But Illinois is looking to go to a 9-3 regular season, and they've got some games that are going to end up being a little harder than they looked earlier in the season. So nothing is written in stone yet, and we would love to have folks tune in. We'll be on at halftime and right after the game for the football game tomorrow. Until then, folks, go Illini.